Um, so welcome to Arts Plus Change, hosted by the University of Rochester's Institute for the Performing Arts in partnership with the Office of Equity and Inclusion, the Paul J. Burgett Cultural Center, the 540 West Main Incorporated, Create a Space Now, and Eastman Institute for Music Leadership, and the Rochester Fringe Festival. My name is Missy Full-Smith. My pronouns are she, her, and I am your conference host for this session with Kevin Warner. We would like to acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, known as the Great Hill People and keepers of the western door of the Haudenosaunee. We take this opportunity to thank the original caretakers on whose ancestral lands the University of Rochester currently resides here in Rochester, New York. And as we come together, we want to acknowledge the need for a commitment to constant action and attention surrounding the systemic issues that continue to impact us each day to this day. In order to enable live transcription in your Zoom view, please click the arrow to the right of the live transcript box, and that box can also be dragged to another location on your screen. We are recording today's session, so please note that your spoken or written comments and image may be included, as well as transcript. If you would like to protect privacy, we invite you to rename your Zoom profile with just your first name and your pronouns if you would like. Breakout rooms will not be recorded. And because we have back-to-back sessions, the session will end promptly at its end time, and we encourage presenters and participants to share contact information via the chat to foster continued discussion and connection where desired. I will put a hashtag for social media in the chat, so if you'd like to share anything about your experience, please tag us. And thank you for joining. And I am now honored to welcome Kevin Warner, who is presenting Applying Choreographic Principles to Theatrical Storytelling, One Dancer's Leap into Musical Theater Directing.
Thank you, Missy. And I'm going to jump right in, but I've had the opportunity to direct, not for the first time, but it hasn't been very common in my career. So this paper was a joy to write and a great reflection on the process that I went through in the spring of 2024. So the world of musical theater merges a variety of artistic threads, with choreography and direction standing out as two of its most critical components. While choreography brings movement, rhythm, and physical storytelling to life, direction oversees the broader vision, integrating all elements of a production into a cohesive whole. Many musical theater choreographers find a natural progression into the director's chair within this dynamic. Choreographers possess a unique perspective that blends precision, creativity, and a profound understanding of movement, making them exceptionally well-suited for directing. This transition allows them to expand their storytelling capabilities, bridging the gap between dance and other theatrical elements such as dialogue, character development, and staging. The journey from choreographer to director has been successfully navigated by several legendary figures in theater history, each bringing their inimitable touch to the productions they helm. In this paper, I intended to explore the distinctive skills and perspectives that choreographers bring to their directorial roles, examine some notable examples of such transitions, and consider the impact of their combined expertise on the evolution of musical theater. By understanding the path these artists have walked, we gain insight into the rich collaborative art form that continues to captivate audiences around the world. I was also interested in gaining insight into my own experience making this transition, which has evolved over 35 years as a dancer, actor, and choreographer of both concert dance and dance and musical theater. My most recent foray into the world of directing occurred in spring 2024 when I was charged with serving as director and co-choreographer of the cult classic Carrie the Musical. Share my screen here. All right. Yes, that Carrie. And this was my third time directing, but in some ways it felt like the first, since it had been almost 15 years since my last journey into this world. It was also quite a contrast to the classic 1951 musical, The King and I, that I had last set on stage, in that this one was not a classic musical of the golden age, but rather it was a rock musical based on a horror novel by a recognized icon of popular culture, Stephen King. Carrie the novel and Carrie the musical are both known for their intense emotional dynamics. The musical incorporates significant movement during the dialogue, and this movement adds depth and helps to emphasize the character's emotions and relationship. For instance, Carrie's interactions with her mother, Margaret, often included choreographed movements that enhanced the tension and conflict between them. In scenes like Eve Was Weak, the physicality of the actors underscores the power struggle and repression, with a mother's dominating presence and Carrie's struggle for independence. Additionally, during the prom scene, the movements convey the chaos and terror that unfolds, with the characters' actions mirroring the escalating tension in the dialogue. In my work on Carrie, I began to recognize that directors often use movement to reflect the internal states of characters, making the emotional narrative more visceral and engaging for the audience. This integration of movement and dialogue in Carrie the Musical creates a multi-layered storytelling experience. As a dancer by profession, how did I harbor my experiences to bring the use of movement as a directing tool to the forefront of the production, both from the actor's perspective and the audience's? As I began to try to articulate this connection, I realized that there is certain dance vocabulary that automatically lends itself to a directing lens. First to mind are the elements of dance, the framework that guides my teaching of dance pedagogy with undergraduate students. The elements of dance are fundamental concepts that help break down and understand movement. These elements, when applied in the context of musical theater, can greatly enhance the storytelling, choreography, and overall production. Here are the key elements and how they contribute. Body awareness, understanding how different parts of the body move independently and in conjunction with others. This helps actors and dancers convey character and emotion effectively. Shapes, the forms and positions the body creates, which can symbolize various themes and emotions. Pathways, the routes taken by performers across the stage. Directors use pathways to guide the audience's focus and create dynamic visual patterns. Levels, the height at which a movement occurs, which indicates status, power, or emotional states within a scene. Direction, movements in different directions convey purpose and intent, helping to tell the story visually. Relationships with other dancers, the way performers interact physically, suggesting connections or conflicts, and with props and set, how dancers use and relate to objects or elements of the set, integrating them into the performance to enhance storytelling. Time, the speed of the movement. Fast tempos can convey excitement or urgency, while slow tempos can reflect contemplation or tension. Rhythm, the pattern of movements in time, often synchronized with the music. This creates cohesion between dance and song, making the performance more engaging. And energy. Force, the amount of energy exerted in a movement. Strong, sharp movements can depict power and aggression, while soft, fluid movements can signify gentleness or sorrow. And dynamics, the variation of force used, creating contrasts and emphasizing certain moments within a scene. In a musical, directors and choreographers each use these elements to design movements that complement the music and narrative, ensuring that both dramatic and dance sequences are evocative and purposeful. Movement can reveal character traits and development. Through specific use of body and space, directors can highlight a character's journey, emotions, and relationships. The elements of dance help craft memorable stage pictures and moments, making the visual aspect of the musical as compelling as the auditory. And by manipulating time and energy, directors can heighten the emotional resonance of scenes, drawing the audience deeper into the narrative. Incorporating the elements of dance and musical theater invariably enriches the direction, providing layered, dynamic, and visually captivating performances. Whether subtle or big, these movements breathe life into the story, turning each performance into an unforgettable experience. But there was another, perhaps less obvious correlation that I wanted to investigate. As I began production meetings on Carrie the Musical, I was immersed in dramaturgy for the piece, reading and researching the history of the musical, the demise of the original production, and a successful revival on Broadway. By happenstance, on the shelf where I had piled books for my investigation, I rediscovered the well-worn copy of my graduate school text for all things composition and choreography, Doris Humphrey's The Art of Making Dances. Seeing it, I recalled afternoons of movement studies in response to specific prompts and elicited by the book. and the application of its concepts to the analysis of existing works. The Art of Making Dances has been a foundational text for choreographers across various dance disciplines, including musical theater, since its first publication in 1959. It provides insights into the creative process and the interplay between movement and emotion. Doris Humphrey, a modern dance pioneer, did not specifically outline a stance on choreographing musical theater in her writings. However, her principles laid out in The Art of Making Dances can be adapted to the unique needs of musical theater choreography. Humphrey emphasized emotional content, structured compositions, and group dynamics, all of which are crucial elements in musicals. Her emphasis on the interplay of balance and imbalance, what she termed fall and recovery, adds depth and meaning to performances, helping choreographers to create movements synchronized with the emotional tone of the musical. It turns out that Humphrey's book also offers several guiding principles that can be effectively applied to the direction of Carrie the Musical. Here's how her ideas came into play. In Doris Humphrey's The Art of Making Dances, the concept of structured compositions is prominently discussed under the section The Craft, where she dives into various aspects of choreography. She emphasizes the importance of symmetry and asymmetry in dance, along with the design parameters such as space and form. Humphrey believed that structured compositions were essential to creating impactful dances. She compared choreographic design to architectural blueprints, ensuring all elements work in harmony. Specifically, some of her core ideas translate this way. Humphrey's approach was movement should reflect the natural human experience, characterized by falls and recoveries. In directing, this principle encourages creating scenes and choreography that reflect authentic human emotions and actions. Characters' movements should appear natural and relatable, giving the audience a sense of realism amidst the reality of musicals. Humphrey's emphasis on fall and recovery, the physical dynamics between balance, gravity, and momentum, brings an innovative perspective to staging musical numbers. It can help craft visually compelling and emotionally charged performances that resonate deeply with audiences. A second approach that Humphrey had was she placed a strong value on ensemble work and the importance of group dynamics. This highlights the importance of the ensemble in a musical, ensuring that group scenes are well choreographed and that each member contributes to the overall storytelling. Directors should focus on the interplay between individuals and the collective, creating rich and layered scenes. Humphrey was a proponent of structured compositions, often emphasizing form and design within dance. In musical direction, directors can use this principle to structure their scenes meticulously, paying close attention to the visual composition of the stage. This involves thoughtful placement of actors and deliberate pacing to create visually pleasing and coherent scenes. In Doris Humphrey's The Art of Making Dances, the concept of structured compositions is prominently discussed, again, in the section The Craft, and she dives into various aspects of choreography. Dramatic content. The content of the dance should have a strong dramatic core and emotional impact. Ensuring that each scene in the musical carries emotional weight and dramatic significance is the application to musicals. Directors should focus on drawing emotional undercurrents of each scene and using choreography to amplify these movements. Breath and flow. Integrate making sure the overall pacing of the musical is engaged and allows the story to unfold seamlessly. And simplicity and clarity. This translates in musical theater directing to clear storytelling and straightforward staging, ensuring that each scene, line, and movement has a clear purpose and communicates effectively to the audience. And there are others. Thematically, Humphrey stressed the importance of dramatic content in dance. Carrie is rich in emotional and psychological depth, dealing with themes of bullying, power, and isolation. Applying Humphrey's principles would mean emphasizing these themes through powerful expressive choreography that captures the emotional intensity and dramatic arc of the story. Humphrey advocated for structured compositions, which can help in organizing scenes with clear visual storytelling. For instance, the prom scene in Carrie has to be meticulously crafted to heighten the impact of Carrie's telekinetic outburst. Contrasting structured, orderly movements with sudden chaos can enhance the storytelling. Humphrey valued ensemble work and the dynamics within a group. And in Carrie, the high school setting benefits from strong group choreography that reflects the social hierarchies and interactions among the students. Group scenes like this one at the prom can use Humphrey's principles to highlight the collective energy and tensions. Her emphasis on contrast and dynamics can be used to great effect in Carrie. For example, calm, intense moments preceding her outbursts can be choreographed to build suspense, making the climactic moments even more impactful. The contrast between Carrie's quiet demeanor and the explosive display of her powers can be accentuated through movement dynamics. Humphrey believed in the significance of motivation in movement. Directors can use this principle to ensure every gesture and movement in Carrie reflects the character's motivations and emotions. Carrie's transformation from a timid girl to a powerful figure must be mirrored in her physicality. So we can see Doris Humphrey's groundbreaking ideas in modern dance, especially her principles of choreography, can offer much to the world of musical theater direction. By studying Humphrey's works, directors can even draw upon techniques that revolve around clarity of structure, emotional expression, and the nuanced use of space. So in tandem with the elements of dance in Humphrey's book, dancers who transition to this role of stage directors often bring a unique set of skills and a dancer's perspective that greatly enhance their directing capabilities. For example, kinesthetic awareness of the body's movement, space, and physical expression. Choreographic insight. With their experience in choreographer, dancer directors excel in coordinating complex movements and ensuring fluidity in scenes. Discipline and focus. Attention to detail and the ability to work collaboratively. Dancers are trained to express emotions through their bodies, which helps them guide actors in conveying emotions authentically and powerfully. This skill can lead to a more nuanced and compelling performances. Dancers tend to have a keen eye for visual storytelling. They understand how to use the human form, movement, and spatial arrangements to tell a story, making their productions visually captivating. Dance training often includes working closely with music, giving dancer directors a strong sense of musicality. Dancers are accustomed to working as part of a team, which translate well into directing. They value the input of others, fostering a collaborative and inclusive creative environment. And the physical demands of dance provide dancer directors with the stamina to endure the often exhausting process of rehearsals and performances. This endurance allows them to maintain energy and focus throughout long production schedules. Bob Fosse, known for his distinct style and brilliance in both choreography and direction, spoke quite insightfully on transitioning from choreographer to director in musical theater. Fosse believed that directing allowed him to expand his storytelling capabilities. While choreography focuses on the movement and visual artistry, directing encompasses all aspects of storytelling, including dialogue, character development, and narrative pacing. Fosse enjoyed intertwining dance with these elements to create a cohesive, emotionally resonant production. Checking the time here. As a director, Fosse appreciated having comprehensive control over the entire creative vision of the production. This gave him the opportunity to ensure that every element, from lighting to music to set design and costumes, worked harmoniously. His background as a performer in choreography gave him a unique insight into what performers go through. He understood the physical and emotional demands on dancers and actors, which helped him to be an empathetic and effective director. He was known for his meticulous attention to detail in both his choreography and direction. His ability to translate this precision into his directing work ensured that every aspect of the production was carefully crafted and executed. He valued collaboration and believed that a successful director must be a strong leader who can inspire and guide the cast and crew. And in his directing, Fosse brought innovative approaches to the stage. He was willing to take risks and experiment with new ideas, blending different art forms and techniques to create groundbreaking productions. Susan Stroman, another Tony Award-winning choreographer and director, has talked about her transition from choreographer to director in multiple interviews and articles. She's often talked about how the skills she developed as a choreographer, attention to detail, timing, and a strong visual sense, have been invaluable in her work as director. Her ability to merge the two roles seamlessly has allowed her to create some of the most memorable productions in modern musical theater. Stroman emphasized that directing allowed her to tell the story more holistically. While choreography focuses on movement and dance, directing gave her the opportunity to shape the narrative, character development, and overall pacing of the production. Quote, when I became a director, it opened a lot more avenues for storytelling. I love being in a room, taking a scene that's 3 or 4 pages long and saying, how can movement and dance enhance this scene? How can we make it more dynamic? Camille A. Brown made her Broadway directorial debut for the Broadway revival of For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough, making her the first Black woman to direct and choreograph a Broadway play since Katherine Dunham in 1955. She has shared various insights about her journey from choreographer to director in musical theater. Some key points that she highlighted were that transitioning to directing allowed her to expand her creative vision. As a choreographer, she already had a strong grasp of movement and storytelling, but being a director provided her with the opportunity to shape and influence the narrative, character development, and overall production design. Camille A. Brown values collaboration and believes in fostering a supportive and inclusive environment for her cast and crew. She often speaks about the importance of strong leadership in creating a space where everyone feels empowered. And Brown continues to push the boundaries by incorporating innovative choreographer into her directorial projects. She blends various dance styles and techniques to create unique and impactful productions, always striving to tell the story through movement and physical expression. And there are others that are equally important and renowned. Matthew Bourne, for example, Agnes DeMille. The work of choreographers turned directors continues to evolve. It's not just the steps that have changed, but the role dance plays in musicals has also shifted. For example, when David Newman choreographed Hadestown, currently on Broadway, he brought the narrative to life by incorporating abstraction and subtlety and creating simple pedestrian movements like loose rhythmic walking. I don't want to dictate the audience's entire experience, Newman says. I want them to lean in and become curious. Susan Stroman says it this way: musical theater choreography used to be more about literal storytelling. Today, the choreography is more about atmosphere, capturing the essence of emotion that's happening on stage, whether it's tension or romance. She credits Andy Blankenbuehler's work on Hamilton and Camille A. Brown's Choir Boy in particular for spurring this development. This more abstract approach has meant less choreography featuring characters dancing as individuals and more collective ensemble movement, says Stroman. When someone breaks out for a solo, the choreography today, quote, has unbelievably interesting and very intricate steps, unquote, a trend that might reflect the distinctive showmanship of social media dance. She says younger choreographers are able to tap into video and TikTok and Instagram, where steps are mostly the stars. Creative background equips them with innovative problem-solving skills. Choreographers turned directors can quickly adapt to changes and find creative solutions to staging challenges. My opportunity to work on Carry the Musical, challenged me to find a balance between choreography and direction so that neither was more prominent in the production. The production required merging direction and choreography to ensure that movement and storytelling was seamlessly integrated. And in tandem with my outstanding collaborators in costume design, lighting design, fight choreography, scenic design, etc., the balance is about creating a cohesive vision where dance and movement enhance the narrative without overshadowing it. This collaboration ensures that the audience is fully immersed and that they experience a character's journey viscerally. Watching a musical through the lenses of both director and choreographer, choreographers turned directors elevate musicals, creating productions that are not only captivating to watch, but also deeply engaging on multiple sensory levels.
Thanks, Kevin. Do you want to have time for feedback or questions or anything like that?
Absolutely, sure. I would love that. And I'm going to type my email address in the chat as well while I'm listening.
I have a question for Kevin.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So Kevin, I was, for one thing, I'm always happiest when when a director is also a choreographer in a
Yeah.
musical. I agree with you 100% that the sensitivity to the whole look of what's happening and transitions and all those things just seem innate in the choreographer director. I was curious because sometimes I fight this. I was wondering, when you look at a script, and I don't know Carrie as a play. I mean, as a musical. I only know it as the film.
Sure.
But I was curious if this ever happened where you're looking at the dialogue and you're like, we could say this non-verbally so much better. And what do you feel about the right or the power of the director to make those kind of decisions?
Yeah.
Question.
So being in an educational institution, of course, we're trying to be good role models at the same time. It's educational theater, so we're trying to be role models for our students. We take the approach here that the any edits to the script or changes to the script are off limits, essentially. If we wanted permission to make some kind of a change, we would go back to the owner of the play, basically, to make those requests. And most often the answer is no. It didn't happen in Carrie the Musical, but I have had other experiences, especially in more traditional musicals, like those Golden Age kinds of musicals, when there's a scene that I don't know, sometimes feels a little superfluous and we don't need like another reprise of this song, really, right? Those kinds of things are when I experience it the most. I thought Carrie was pretty well crafted. The first production was just a disaster and closed on Broadway, I think, after 13 performances. And then it was rewritten and revived about 15 years later and was much more successful. It was actually done off Broadway. It was never done on Broadway again. So I think it was pretty well crafted, but the answer to your question is I don't. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks. I
Great
was
question.
curious.
I don't really have a question, but it's more of a comment about how you were talking about falling recovery and how, typically I think about that physically, but how that also can happen dramatically, like how, what happens, emotionally a fall can happen and how does the character recoup. And so that was a really interesting parallel. And you made a lot of really interesting parallels from like a language that can live in dance, but then also can live in these other forms, right? So that was really fascinating.
Yeah. I see a question in the chat. What's the biggest challenge for the choreographer during this transition process? Um, Honestly, it's self-confidence and feeling like you have the skills to be able to do this. I think, often we feel pressure to have trained, in particular in theater, to be able to do it. And I would say absolutely, if you're not trained at all in theater, the experience of being in as many shows as possible, from the ensemble to the front of the stage, to the lead roles, is where you learn the craft. It's just like teaching. You watch people do it, and that's when you become good at it. But I think that the biggest challenge is that confidence in saying that you have the skills and you have the ability to make something special on stage. Um, yeah, it's not unlike dancing, really.
Nicole, go ahead.
Along those lines with that transition, how do you shift that brain, or how do you balance that brain of the choreographer's brain that, especially in musical theater, tends to be on five it's this, on six it's this,
Yeah.
really beat specific, whereas the director brain also is encouraging choice, enabling choice and actor choice and impulses, and balancing those two trainings and demands.
In this show, I really focused on the script, the writing, because it had so much within it that you start by analyzing that and find those rises and that fall and recovery within the script. That's certainly one way in which I looked at it. And probably the most prominent way. That's something that I was never trained in as a dancer. So that's a skill that I had to acquire over time, to be taught, and also to take classes, like one of you in acting classes where you actually are breaking apart a script and looking for those moments. But that's really how I approached it.
Awesome. Going once, going twice. Um, Amazing. Thanks, Kevin, for sharing. And
Thank you for the opportunity to do this. Yeah.
absolutely. Blair put in the chat the rest of the sessions for today. So hopefully we'll see some of you again this afternoon. And Kevin, if you want to share, we have someone coming in, but we'll just let them in. If you want to share your email or anything like that so people can contact you, you're welcome to do that.
I did
And
put it in the chat, so it's there if people can see it. Warner KS.
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, Kevin, I just want to thank you. It seems to be very little literature from the musical theater perspective out there. So really great to have another focused paper. And I've just have always found that in moments where I've been in musical theater pedagogically situations, that there's not a lot to draw from
No.
what out there. So thank you for adding to the
Yeah.
lit review out there.
Welcome. I have a colleague who just wrote a really good book on dance and musical theater.
Cool.
Ray Miller, Dr. Ray Miller, but he inspires me a little bit. He's also a director, so a dancer turned director.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, thank you again.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for joining.